All right, so you want to dive into Aries and Scorpio compatibility, huh? Buckle up, because this is not your typical, oh, these two signs go together kind of thing. This is intense. We're talking fire meets gasoline level intensity.
And that's a good way to put it. I mean, we are talking about two signs that are ruled by Mars, right? The planet of action and desire. So there's that shared drive, that passionate energy that both of them have. But then you've got the elements. You've got fire with Aries and water with Scorpio. And that's where things get really, really interesting.
Interesting is putting it mildly. All our sources for this deep dive, they did not hold back. Let's just say this pairing is known for its, shall we say, fireworks.
There's definitely a strong physical connection. Both signs, they crave that physical connection. But their approaches, oh, they can be very different.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, Aries is very direct. They're instinctual. If they feel it, they act on it, impulse-driven. Whereas Scorpio, even in intimate moments, they're looking for that emotional depth. They want to connect on a deeper level.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So that difference, that could be really exciting if they can navigate it, because it's bringing like this whole mix of spontaneity and intensity.
Exactly. It's finding that balance.
So then there's this whole other thing, this whole trust issue. Our source actually used the phrase make or break when it came to jealousy with this pairing. So what's the deal with that?
Well, it goes back to that shared Martian energy. But this time we're talking about the flip side. Because they're both so passionate, they can also be very possessive. Almost territorial, you could say.
Oh, wow.
So for this pairing to work, they need rock-solid trust, like non-negotiable. And that means communication is absolutely key.
So they both got to be like super upfront about their feelings.
Exactly. They have to address those insecurities head-on instead of letting them simmer under the surface.
Oh, I can see how that would go wrong very quickly if they're not careful.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's say, hypothetically, they actually do try to talk things out. How does that even work when these two are basically wired for, like, completely different communication styles?
Well, this is where things can get a little tricky, because you've got Aries, who is all about directness. I mean, we're talking straight to the point. Yeah. No beating around the bush, just tell it like it is.
And Scorpio, what's their style like?
Scorpio, on the other hand, they're processing everything on a much deeper level. They're analyzing every single detail, every nuance.
So are we talking shouting matches and just like endless analysis paralysis? Okay, I'm starting to see how this could go either way. Like they could either have just these blowout fights or like really, really productive conversations if they figure out how to like meet in the middle.
Exactly. And it's not about changing who they are. It's about understanding. Like Aries can learn a lot from Scorpio's ability to kind of dive deep and uncover the why behind things. And then Scorpio can benefit from Aries' direct communication, learning how to just kind of put it out there. It's about seeing those differences as strengths instead of just obstacles.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like that's going to be way easier said than done in the middle of like a disagreement, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with emotions. The source made it sound like these two are speaking like completely different emotional languages.
It's a great way to put it. Because Scorpio, they experience emotions very intensely.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to go there. They'll explore those depths. And they process those emotions slowly and thoroughly. Aries, on the other hand, they feel things quickly, and then they move on.
Oh, wow. See, that's fascinating, because I could see how Scorpio might be like, hello, are you even listening to me? Like they might feel ignored.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's why understanding is so important. For this to work, Scorpio has to get that Aries needing space to process doesn't mean they don't care. It's just how they're wired.
Okay, and Aries would need to.
Aries can benefit from acknowledging that Scorpio's feelings are valid, even if they don't necessarily understand. It's about creating that space where both partners feel heard and respected, even in those differences.
Gotcha. So it's all about communication. But beyond that, is there any common ground for these two? Like, what do they actually enjoy doing together? Besides,
Right. Beside that undeniable physical attraction we talked about, well, believe it or not, there are some fundamental values that both Aries and Scorpio connect with.
Okay, good. Because so far this is sounding a bit like relationship chaos with a side of emotional whiplash.
Well, both signs, they value honesty, even if it's a little, rough around the edges sometimes.
I can see that.
They like directness, no mind games, no passive aggressiveness. And here's the interesting part. They both kind of crave a certain level of intensity.
Okay, yeah, that tracks with their personalities. So are we talking shared hobbies that involve, like, I don't know, skydiving and staring contests?
Well, maybe not those specific activities, but you're getting the idea. The source actually highlighted bravery as a shared value. But how they express that bravery is where those differences really come out.
Okay, I'm intrigued now. Break it down for me. Aries bravery versus Scorpio bravery. What are we talking?
So imagine this, a warrior charging into battle, totally fearless and ready to conquer, right?
Oh, okay. Classic Aries.
Exactly. It's about outward action, facing challenges head on, proving their strength to the world.
Makes sense. So then, how's Scorpio's bravery different?
Think of like a deep sea diver, venturing into these unknown depths of the ocean. They're facing their own inner demons, their own hidden fears. It's about this internal strength, exploring those dark, uncharted territories, but like within themselves.
So Aries conquers the external world, and Scorpio conquers, like, their own inner world.
You got it. And that difference, it kind of highlights this really fundamental tension that can happen in the relationship. Because Aries is looking for that external validation, recognition, achievement, that outward proof of their strength. Scorpio, on the other hand, they're seeking internal mastery. They're less concerned with what other people think and way more focused on understanding themselves on this deeper level.
So it's not that one's better than the other, it's just that they're coming at it from totally different angles.
Exactly. And it takes a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy to bridge that gap.
That makes a lot of sense. But if they clashed this much, why are these two even drawn to each other in the first place? Like, what is that magnetic pull that brings them together? So we've talked about all the challenges, right? Like all those differences that could so easily send these two like running opposite directions. But there's that undeniable spark, that magnetic pull that keeps them coming back for more. What is that? What's the secret sauce?
Well, I think it goes back to that shared Martian energy that we were talking about right at the very beginning. It's primal. It's passionate. And when it comes to attraction, it's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
They challenge each other. They push each other's buttons. And that creates this undeniable spark. Think about it. For Aries, excitement is key. Aries thrives on conquering new territory. And Scorpio, well, they're drawn to mystery. They want to unravel all those layers beneath the surface. So they see that fire in Aries and they can't help but lean in, Oh, yeah. It's like they both crave that intensity, even if it means they might get burned sometimes. Exactly. But that intensity, it can either fuel a bonfire or burn the house down, right?
Yeah.
It all depends on how willing they are to really understand and work with those fundamental differences. If they can approach the relationship with like a sense of curiosity,
Yeah.
a willingness to learn from each other, that friction, it can create some pretty incredible sparks.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's maybe in an Aries-Scorpio relationship right now, what would you tell them? Is it run for the hills or buckle up?
I would say this pairing is definitely not for the faint of heart. I'm not going to lie. It takes constant communication.
Yeah.
And a sense of humor helps too, to navigate all those inevitable clashes and a willingness to compromise. But if both partners are committed to really putting in the effort, the passion and intensity can create a truly unique, transformative relationship. It's not about changing who they are at their core. It's about learning to appreciate and navigate those differences.
Okay, so that's reassuring and a little bit terrifying all at the same time. It's like they say, the course of true love never did run smooth. Especially, I guess, when you've got fire and water trying to, like, coexist.
And let's not forget, with Scorpio, you've also got that Pluto influence in the mix.
Oh, right.
And Pluto in astrology, well, represents transformation, power dynamics, those deep subconscious forces that shape who we are. This isn't just like a surface level connection. This is about diving into those deeper emotional waters, facing those shadow sides within themselves and within each other.
Wow, okay, that adds like a whole other layer of complexity to this whole thing. So, final thought for our listeners who are out there bravely navigating this whole fiery, watery roller coaster of a dynamic. What would you leave them with?
Here's a question to ponder. I want you to think about this. Are you both brave enough to face yourselves in the reflection of the other? Because I really think that's where the real growth happens. That's where the real magic of this pairing lies. When you have two individuals who are willing to confront their own depths, to challenge and support each other's growth, that is where the true potential of an Aries-Scorpio relationship can truly ignite.
That is some seriously powerful advice. It's not always easy to face those deeper parts of ourselves. But hey, sometimes the most challenging relationships are the ones that teach us the most, right?
100%.
Well, that's it for this deep dive on Aries and Scorpio compatibility. We covered a lot today. If you're looking for more insights on this fiery pairing or any others, check out the show notes for all the resources we mentioned. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the fascinating world of astrology and compatibility. Until then, happy stargazing, everyone.